Yun, so kaunting introduction lang tungkol sa event na to, tsaka yung larger project namin. So I would like to share with you some of the content of the interviews that we have done so far for our project titled OFWs amid COVID-19. Ang workshop na ito po ay third out of four art workshops that we are offering to OFWs bilang creative outlet ngayong panahon ng COVID, ng gulo at aligala. Noong October po, si Patrick Cruz, isang Filipino-Canadian artist, ay nag-facilitate ng workshop na ang title ay Painting Painting, kung saan ang participants ay natuto ng iba't ibang uri ng art. Sabi ni Patrick, ang painting daw ay hindi lamang iyong two-dimensional na nasa dingding, kundi maaari ring nasa sahig, gumagapang o naaapakan. Ibig sabihin po ay may iba't ibang uri ng sining, kaya marami rin tayong oportunidad para i-express ang ating saloobin sa iba't ibang paraan. Sa ikalawang workshop, si Christian Cordero, isang Batikan na filmmaker at manunulat na nanalo na ng 6 na Palangka Awards at marami pang iba, ay nagbigay ng pointers kung paano tayo maaaring makagawa ng kwento mula sa very ordinary things.
Wow.
Sabi ni Christian, natuto siyang magsulat mula sa kanyang pagkabata dahil sumusulat siya noon sa kanyang mga magulang na OFWs. Ang kanyang tatay ay isang seaman at ang nanay naman niya noon ay domestic helper sa Dubai. Kasabay po ng art workshops na ito, ang aming team, kasama ko po si Jehu, si Marian Brina at si Sharon Fajardo, ay ang kasama po nito ay ang pag-survey at pag-interview ng 50 OFWs na apektado ng COVID-19. Sinimulan po namin ang interview bago magpasko at kasalukuyang nakapagkolekta na kami ng 46 na surveys at 18 na follow-up interviews na kadalasang 45 minutes hanggang 2 oras ang haba. Medyo marami pong kwento ang mga kapwa nating OFW ngayong pandemic. Gusto ko lamang pong ibahagi ang ilang highlights mula sa mga interview ito. Isang OFW na nagtatrabaho bilang domestic worker sa Kuwait ay walang regular na access sa internet. Bumibili siya ng load at limitado ang kanyang access at kahit merong wifi sa bahay ng kanyang amo. Hindi siya binibigyan ng access, kaya dagdag ang kanyang pag-aalala habang nasa abroad siya. Ang OFW na po ito ay hindi lamang nag-aalala tungkol sa COVID, kundi pati na rin sa sunod-sunod na bagyong dumaan sa Bicol noong Nobyembre. Naalisan ng bubong ang kanilang bahay at kinailangang mag-evacuate na nakadagdag pa sa pag-aalala niya ng labis dahil sa COVID. Ang isa sa mga na-interview namin ay kasalukuyang nakatira sa isang OWA dorm sa Manila dahil stranded siya sa Manila mula October at hindi makaalis hanggang ngayon para maipagpatuloy ang kanyang trabaho sa China. Habang naghihintay, gumagawa ang OFW na ito ng mga paraan para magkaroon ng income. Sila po ay merong online shop at merong di pumapasok na income mula doon sa shop na yon. Isang OFW ang kasalukuyang stranded sa Japan. Walang trabaho ng halos 1 taon na at before Japan ay na-stranded din siya ng 3 buwan sa Cebu at ginagastos ang sariling savings. Sa panahong walang trabaho dala ng COVID, nababawasan ang kanyang savings daw at kadalas ay kailangan pa niya magpadala ng pera sa kanyang mga kamag-anak sa Pilipinas dahil siya lang din ang inaasahan. Ilan din sa aming mga na-interview ang nakahanap ng kalma sa kagitnaan ng gulo ng pandemic. Ayon sa isang English teacher sa China, meron daw siyang deep introspection during the pandemic dahil hindi niya nakikita yung mga pamilya niya at parang na-appreciate niya yung presence nila ngayon na parang mahirap umuwi. Ayon naman sa isang nurse sa UK na dumating doon sa UK nung pumutok ang COVID, wala pa siyang 1 taon doon at nagkaroon siya ng COVID while on duty dahil na-assign siya sa COVID wards at nagkakahawaan sila sa apartment nila na kung saan puro Pinoy ang nakatira. Sa aming interview with her, tinanong namin siya kung ano sa palagay niya ang kaganapan sa Pilipinas. So, itong interviewer na ito ay political. Sabi niya ay sobrang daw ang pahirap na nangyayari ngayon sa Pilipinas. So sabi niya sana mas maging mabuti pa, sana may future kapag, mas mabuti ang future kapag ang mga Pilipino ay nagdi-demand sana ng gusto nila na nakarapat-dapat na serbisyo para sa kanila. Yun, sa mga survey po na ito, kami po ay naglalayong makakalap ng mga karanasan ng mga OFW. Mahalaga pong malaman ang mga karanasan nila dahil through their experiences, through our experiences, we can learn how we can make the condition better, the situation better for ourselves and our families. So sa ikatlo po ng workshop na ito, tayo naman ay maglalakbay sa mundo ng tula. Ngayong araw na ito ay gagabayan tayo ni Karla, Lenina, Comanda kung paano pagdugtong-dugtungin, pagtahi-tahiin ang mga salita para makabuo po ng tula. O, di ba, rhyme? Ayun. So, sigurado po ako na mag-enjoy tayong lahat sa workshop na ito. So, welcome to workshop 3. Ang huling workshop ay gaganapin sa Pebrero, wala pa pong date. Pero ito po ay with well-known photographer Rafi Lerma. Kevin?
I-introduce niyo pa po ba si Ma'am Karla or diretso na po tayo sa...
Brief introduction din kay Karla. So ang ating guest speaker ngayong araw na ito ay walang iba kundi ang napakahusay at napakagandang Karla Lenina Comanda. Isa siyang manunula, translator, editor, at arts administrator. Una kami nagkakilala ni Karla sa University of British Columbia, kung saan kami noon ay graduate students. Si Karla ay nagtapos ng Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing sa UBC sa Canada. Lumabas na ang kanyang mga tula sa maraming publikasyon gaya ng Room Magazine, Poetry is Dead at marami pa. Noong 2017, si Karla ay ginawaran ng Jim Wong Chu Emerging Writers Award for Poetry in Canada. Bukod sa pagiging poet, si Karla ay nagsusulat din ng script para sa teatro at na-stage na ang kanyang play na Medium sa Vancouver. Si Karla ay ipinanganak at lumaki sa Pilipinas at lumipat sa Canada kasama ang kanyang pamilya nung siya ay college, pero nag-aral siya ng kaunti sa UST. Si Karla po ay isa ring burlesque dancer at papanood po ang kanyang mga performances sa Vancouver.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me here today, and thank you for the invitation. If you have questions about burlesque later, like you can ask me later on. So actually, yung title na Tula Tulala, I would like to give Dada credit for the title kasi siya ang nag-isip noon. Pero now I think like how appropriate is the title kasi minsan wala ka na lang magagawa kundi talagang mapapatulala ka na lang sa mga nangyayari sa mundo. So my hope for this workshop is that we can create something, whatever that looks like in poetic form, mula sa ating pagkatulala sa estado ng mundo, especially sa gitna ng pandemya. So I'm here to talk a little bit about poetry. Poetry according to other poets, and then my own interpretation of what it is. We're also here to write poetry. We're going to be doing a lot of writing of poetry today. So we're here to write poetry or parts of one using prompts and writing exercises and generate as much as we can or whatever we can from our experiences and imagination. Especially in the middle of what we're going through right now. So my hope is that you come out of the workshop with fragments, phrases, words, sentences, or even full poems, or maybe just fire the imaginative synapses in your brain. Next slide. So parang suggested group guidelines lang ito. So first, you can choose to share according to your comfort level. There will be an opportunity for us to share what we've written after every prompt or every couple prompts or so. So the writing prompts are just there to get you started. Don't feel like you have to follow them to a T. So parang just feel all the feels. And if you feel pulled into a certain direction that may be different from the prompt, just let your pen or your keyboard guide you. And practice self-care. So kung kailangan nyo kumain or mag-unat or uminom ng tubig, like please do that. Or if you have to turn off your camera, like please feel free to do that too. And although the workshop will be facilitated in kind of English, I guess, Taglish minsan, feel free to write in whatever language you want to write. So kung gusto nyo mag-Bicolano or Ilocano, Ibanag, Tagalog, Chavacano, whatever, or paghalu-haluin nyo, like feel free to do that and create a beautiful mess. And next slide, please. So this is a process-based workshop. What does this mean? So this means that the focus is on the actual process of writing. So don't worry about writing something good or writing correctly. So just write and write and write and write. I think isa sa pinakamalaking trappings of the practice of creative writing is that we get stuck on writing the perfect draft, when really a draft is just a draft. Like no one can see it. Like it's just your for yourself, and it's something that you can always work on. And like nobody. It's okay if it doesn't come out perfect the first time, because you can always keep on working on it. And then next slide, please. So I guess I mean, my icebreaker na tayo kanina, pero icebreaker ulit. So, oh, by the way, kung may tanong kayo at any point, paki-type na lang sa chat box, or like just raise your hand, unmute yourself, or whatever. So my question to everybody is, how do you define poetry, and what makes a poem a poem? So you can answer in sentences, in phrases, in fragments, or just list down words. Paki-type na lang sa chat box, please. And I'll be looking forward to your responses. By the way, there is no right or wrong answer. Like if you say like poetry is the worst thing that's ever happened in humanity, I'm not going to be offended. So just say what you want to say.
Hi, Karla.
Hi. Hi, Marianne.
Kailangan ba magsalita? Sorry, or kailangan nang magsulat?
Or kung gusto mo lang i-type sa chat box, or like if you wanna tell me right now, okay then.
Okay, I think since nag-on na ako ng sabihin ko na lang. For me, poetry is a written form of music, kasi I love music. So that's how I define poetry.
Thank you for sharing. So I think like responses are also coming in from other people. So sabi ni Janet, a poem conveys a message from the heart. Sabi ni Gerald, poetry is an expression of feelings. Sabi ni Nikki, poetry is an art form. And according to Jess, poetry is an expression of oneself based on his or her experiences. Terry said that a poem is a message in rhyme with expression. And then Dada, she just typed what Marian said. Poetry is a written form of music. So if anybody wants to add their input, just feel free to do so. Just maybe like 1 more minute-ish. Okay, so again, so sabi ni Evangeline, poetry as an expression of the soul. So I think my response to all that, so thank you so much again, everybody, for sharing your thoughts. So ang sagot ko dyan is, yes, I agree. And then some. So I think, next slide, please. So parang I think one of the things that we think about poetry when we look at poetry is like what it looks like. So it can look like so many different ways. So as you can see in the first bullet point, a poem can look like this. So parang very short, like 3 words per line, just like it doesn't have to be 3 words, but like you can keep it short, or you can you can make it more rhythmic by like adding in by making the punctuation marks work. So a poem can look like this. A poem can look like this too. Did you know? Or you can take out all the punctuation marks and like disregard any rules of capitalization and punctuation, and just say a poem can look like this. A poem can look like this too. Did you know? So I just made this all up like an hour ago. Next slide. So did you know that a poem can also be written in paragraph form, and these usually come in the form of typically prose poems. And also it can also be can also be a word per line. So if I guess one thing that you'll probably notice is that depending on how you shape the poem, like it sounds differently, the rhythm flows differently. So next slide. So I just want to share some of the what other poets have to say about poetry. So according to Rita Dove, poetry is language at its most distilled and most powerful. Sabi naman ni Joy Harjo, when I began to listen to poetry, it's when I began to listen to the stones and I began to listen to what the clouds had to say. And I began to listen to sorry, the quote seems to be missing something. And I think most importantly for all of us, then you begin to learn to listen to the soul of yourself in here, which is also the soul of everyone else. So, so there's a couple more definitions in the next slide, but just like focusing on these two. So, so Rita Dove like emphasizes the notion of the language and really like focusing on the power of the words and like what words can do for us in conveying the messages that we want to convey. Whereas Joy Harjo kind of emphasizes on the listening part of poetry and how the ways we tune in to not just everything around us, everything we see, smell, hear, smell and touch and whatever and taste. And next slide. So sabi naman ng poet na si Hye-jung Kook, so she says perhaps poetry isn't so different after all when she compares it to like other art forms. So to read poems, to feel how words move through my body, to arrange them differently, to study poetic craft, to handle different voices, to try different forms, to feel the shape of the words, the lines through my breath. So I think, so dito naman nakikita ko para like how poetry is like super embodied na parang we just really, so this is why I'm saying like you have to feel all the feels and talagang ramdamin niyo lahat. And I think finally, and this will get into my next point, you can find poetry in your everyday life, your memory, in what people say on the bus, in the news, or what's in your heart. So gusto kong emphasize na for me, I think we really are all surrounded by poetry. So if you just listen to Philippine languages and how melodic they are, and the way we're raised on stories like yung mga salawikain na nakalaka natin, or yung mga bugtong, or yung mga folk songs, or even like yung mga urban legends, like yung kulto ng 90s, tas yung mga legend ng ahas sa Robinson's Galleria. I think like, it shows our exposure to I would argue that's a form of poetry, and we are more exposed to it than you think. So when people think of poetry, they think of Rizal and Shakespeare and Balagtas. But I think that today poetry's definition is so wide and varied, and it can take on so many different shapes and forms. So yes, it can be a sonnet, a haiku, a sestina, or another form with a specific length, syllabication, rhyme scheme, meter, number of lines, and all that, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that today it can look like anything you want it to be, and you don't have to, there is not such a restriction or rigidness of the form. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry, never mind. Previous slide ulit. Thank you. So think of poetry, another way you can think of poetry is like, it's a story or it's a message, an image that you want to convey. It could be a moment that's suspended in time, or it can encompass multiple timelines. So it's a space where everything you use from the white space on the paper to the line breaks, to the words you use, and like as I showed earlier, yung punctuation marks, yung the use of capitalization. So like lahat may function. And I think in poetry that will help augment anything and everything that you want to say. So for me, ultimately, I see poetry as a space of like multiple meanings and possibilities, and that everything you choose to do is intentional. So the intention to have like short lines or like long lines, like also I'm just recalling like si Jose Garcia Villa, yung poet, like he would like put comma after every word. So that's done with such intention and intensity. So, in even writing a poem in paragraph form, lahat yan may ibig sabihin. So, the intention to choose an image over another. So like, why say pusang gala instead of just pusa? or why make the space, why make the page spacious, or why the intention to fill it up, the intention to make the poem look like a poem or make it not look like a poem. So I think underneath it all, intention is very, very important. So do you, and also like, what do you want your audience to receive? Like, do you want your reader to go along that journey with you, or do you want to like disrupt that journey and unsettle that? So what do you want your reader to feel? So I think, again, for me, like, there is no right or wrong answer. It's totally up to you. So any questions before we go to the next slide? So parang wala. So yeah, we can go into the next slide and just start writing. So I want everybody to close your eyes and just think back to a place that you consider to be your home. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be like, we're gonna be timing these writing prompts just to like get us like moving, so you don't also have to think about it too hard. So yeah, so just like close your eyes and think of a place that you consider to be your home. It could be like your childhood home. It could be your home now, or it was a place that was only your home for maybe a day or two, that or a place that you felt the most home at while traveling. Just think of a place that's like home to you. So pag naisip nyo na siya, next slide, please. So what do you see? So think of the sites that you're seeing in this home of yours. So and just like list everything down, and you have 2 minutes, and I'm gonna start my timer right now. So 1 minute left. So just wrap up whatever you're writing. Time is almost up. Okay, time's up. So next slide, please. So what sounds are you hearing? So think about it. Siguro nadidinig niyo yung mga tricycle sa labas, or you like yung mga aso, mga askal sa kalye, or maybe yung TV nadidinig niyo. So again, take 2 minutes to write everything that you can think of. Don't think about it too hard, whatever comes to mind. And again, 2 minutes, which starts right now. So 1 minute left. So just wrap up whatever you're writing. Time's up. Next slide. Okay. Next, what scents are you smelling? Ito ba yung putikan sa labas ng bahay ninyo or yung amoy ng asfalto na laging inaayos ng barangay every year? Or ito ba yung amoy ng ulan pag makulimlim or amoy ng pagkain na niluluto sa bahay araw-araw? Just dig into that. And again, 2 minutes ulit. And your 2 minutes starts now. Come, 1 minute. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, time's up. Next slide. What can you taste? So, of course, when we think of taste, we automatically think of food, but of course, it doesn't have to be food. It could be, I don't know, kung nakatikim na ba kayo ng alikabok or ng goma or whatever. So, so think about taste. Like, yes, absolutely think about food because I think like, you know, the taste of things like can trigger a lot of things in us. But I also kind of want to encourage you to think about non-food tastes. And again, 2 minutes ulit and starts right now. Okay, 1 minute. Ten seconds. Okay, time's up. And next slide ulit. So finally, what are some textures that you can feel? So maybe ito yung kahoy sa hagdanan or yung linoleum sa sahig ninyo, yun ang nafe-feel ninyo, or yung feeling na kung may nabasag kayong na figurine noon. So think about those types of things, or like yung pakiramdam ng walis tambo, na ano na, parang napupudpud na siya. So again, 2 minutes, which starts right now. Just wrap up whatever you're writing kasi time na. Okay, so so thank you for going to the next slide. So so para sa akin, magkadugtong tong dalawang prompt na to. So I guess we'll just go right into the next one. So for the next 10 minutes, I want you to begin every line with the phrase, I don't remember. So perhaps these are just moments that you only saw in photos, or stories that were only told to you or passed on to you, or like narratives that were encapsulated in cassette tapes, or moments that you only read about in letters. So try to write 10 lines, and just try. And you have 10 minutes, and remember to use sensory details, your sense of sight. So hopefully na-warm up na kayo doon sa taste, touching, hearing, smell, to paint a full picture, like really like ground yourself in that experience and bring it back to the body. So again, 10 minutes. And your 10 minutes starts now. So 5 minutes left. So 1 minute left. Okay, just wrap up whatever you're writing. And time's up. Ayan. So next slide, please. So ngayon, we're gonna do a check-in and sharing. So yeah, you've written something. So palakpakan. So my question is, what was the experience of responding to the prompts like, and what has this unearthed for you? And if anybody would like to share what they've written, please feel free to do so by entering it in the chat or by speaking. Yes. How did you feel? Or what did you write?
Nahihiya.
Oo nga, nahiya. Teka, may nakataas ng kamay. Si
Ako,
Gerald ba
Carl.
yun? Sige.
Yeah, I felt like all my childhood memories are coming back to me, especially those memories with my family in a sea, in a community, in a fishing village, in a fishing community in Negros Occidental. So right now it feels like the image of a fish, the image of fishermen working in their bancas, the smell of a kilawin, the smell of barakong kape in the morning with all those noise and chat of fishermen working and drinking after going to the sea for fishing. All those memories are like coming to me as real right now. So yeah, thank you for the prompts. It feels like those specific questions of sense of smell, sense of sight were really like motivating me to go back to those memories with specific directions. And that really helped. So thank you.
Oo nga, nakakamiss ba? Para ako kasi, so thank you for sharing, Gerald, and thank you for sharing. Those were like beautiful images to share, like the smell of like the having that central image of the fish, and then the fisherman, and yung kilawin, and yung kaping barako. I think, you know, it like there's something about the notion of home that evokes such vivid memories for us, and I think too, like, you know, when we think about home, I think for me personally, my impulse too is to think about my childhood home, sa Novaliches, which is where I was like, you know, grabbing the examples from. So let's see what people said in the chat. So Terry said, I like prompts. They allow me to have structure in my thought process. Yes, I like prompts too, because they also help. I feel, you know, sometimes there's days where you can't just like write anything, and they help you you know, they help you have direction, especially if like you're feeling a little bit lost. So Nikki said, it's too difficult because all the ones that I've written are still vivid in my mind. Yes, and I think especially, you know, with the time that we're in right now, you might be away from our homes that we wrote about. So, you know, sometimes recalling them can be like, you know, pretty emotional experience or like pretty difficult for us. So yes, I definitely agree. And Lunisa said, I think we prefer to be called Lisa. So Lisa said that it's amazing. I remember my childhood memory in the farm where I grew up, I miss my hometown more. And yes, I think, again, like echoing what I said earlier about like, you know, like this idea of home, like just triggering such memories for us, and like and these feelings and emotions. And Marian said that I got a taste of my childhood again, melancholic, heartwarming, some sad images, but more happy moments with my parents and siblings. Yeah, and you know, because when you think of, you know, your memories, it's not just like the things that are there, because there's also people living in that house. So, you know, when you think of those memories, it's not just the things, it's also the family or like, you know, relatives or whatever that that helped us feel at home at that home. So thank you so much for sharing, everybody. So I think with that, speaking of missing things, we'll move on to the next slide. Oh, Janet said, Janet said, I feel like I can fill up a home book now. Thanks, Karla. May kasunod pa yan. And Evangeline said, if prompts help me narrow down what to write, so many ideas can be overwhelming. I agree, because sometimes, you just like, again, like I said earlier, I think it really helps us get some sort of direction with what we're writing, especially if we feel like there's too many ideas to write. There's so many experiences to draw from. So speaking of missing things, so we'll go to the third writing prompt, which is, what you've been missing. So I want you to take just a couple minutes to list everything that you've been missing during the pandemic, from people to hobbies to experiences to things. So maybe it's your family, maybe it's an activity that you used to do a lot before the lockdown. Maybe it's the act of traveling itself, the act of being in a plane, or like a certain food that you can only get outdoors and not being locked in a space. So you have, again, 2 minutes. Just like list down anything and everything you can think of. 2 minutes starts right now. Thirty seconds na lang pala. Sorry. Okay, and time is up. So ngayon, just like take, sorry, just give me 1 second. So just look at the list that you've written and pick one, anyone. So I'll give you 20 seconds to select anything that stands out or that you want to pick from this list that you've written. It could be just something that, the one that you miss the most, or maybe it's just one that jumps off of the page for you. So just think about it for 20 seconds, which starts now. Okay, and time is up. And next slide, please. So what I want you to do is write an instructional / list poem. Think of like formatting your poem like a recipe or like a how-to guide na may number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that explores finally being with these people or doing or having this thing that you've missed after so long, or being in that moment before finally doing the things that you've missed. So what is that experience like? What ways does it feel different from before? So remember to use your senses and bring it back to your body. So, kung gusto niyo yung bigyan ng title, it's like, I don't know, how to, I'm just trying to think, how to participate in the Nazareno procession after the pandemic or something like that. So I hope you catch my drift. Or like how to cook so-and-so. But hopefully you catch my drift. Sorry. So again, 10 minutes ulit, which is gonna start right now. Oh, 10 to 15 lines, by the way. And your 10 minutes starts right now.
Karla, pwedeng magtanong?
Mm.
Can you just talk a little bit more kung ano yung instructional list poem? Sorry.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry. Papause ko na lang yung timer. So instructional in the list poem, so or a list poem. So parang ililista mo lang siya. So parang if you think of like a how-to guide. So kunyari, how to I'm just trying to think like how to wrap a gift or like how to cook something. But so parang ganun yung format. So parang it's like a set of instructions on like how to do it. But like of course it could be as straightforward as like actually instructing the reader how to do it, or you can parang mag-invento ka ng set of instructions for people on how to do it. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Sige. So i-restart ulit natin.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you for the question. So we'll restart the timer right now. 10 minutes. Or if you're writing a recipe poem format, like think of the ingredients on what you need to make a successful thing or experience. 5 minutes. One minute. Okay, just finish whatever you're writing. So 3, 2, one. Okay, time's up. I guess just a reminder, people, na please practice self-care. Kung kailangan nyo mag-unat or turn off your camera or step away for a little bit and just like take a breath or whatever, or kung kailangan nyo kumain, go lang. So with that said, let's move on to the next slide. So, which is another check-in and sharing. So, could we talk about like, how did you feel responding to this particular prompt, or what did you write, or what has this unearthed for you? Or I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Again, please enter them in the chat, or if you want to speak into the microphone, just raise your hand.
Share ba yung tula sa chat box?
Kung gusto nyo.
Sinong gustong mag-share? Pag mahiya.
Walang iya. We're all friends here.
Kaya mag-share ng insights.
Sabi ni Janet, the prompts are wonderful. Thank you.
Actually, ang galing. Ang galing ng prompts.
Actually, I have to give credit for this particular prompt. This is kind of an idea I got from a Latinx writer named Vanessa Martir. Ano siya, parang essayist and nonfiction writer. So I took a few of her workshops before last year because she was doing them for free. So if writers are giving free workshops, like I would encourage you to join them. And anyway, so this was not the direct prompt that she shared, but like I kind of had the idea. It's like, oh, we'll turn this into something else. So that's how I came up with it. Terry said prompts are really helpful. Thank you. I'm glad that it could help. So yeah, I'm curious. Sabi ni Dada, like insights. Like I don't know kung may natutunan ba kayo. Did you learn anything about yourself? Habang nililista niyo yung mga nami-miss ninyo.
Si Terry ata wants to share. Yay!
Oh, yay!
Okay, so I think I got what you were talking about, but I have just a short one, and I don't know if it's correct. So my instructional poem on to connect with family. First, get VPN to work. That's useful. 2, use social networking apps. That's also useful. Keep prompting them with messages before and after your talk, if ever that happens. And schedule online meetups because they need to be. Brainstorm topics for discussions because you can run out of anything to talk about. That's it.
Yay, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, definitely. Oh, I see also Evangeline wants to share. Ay, nakamute ka po.
This is something that I really miss kasi hindi mo naman pwedeng gawin to kung nag-iisa ka lang. So this is my take. Paano kumain ng masarap? Una, maganda ng mga paboritong ulam, adobong baboy at manok, sinigang na bangus sa bayabas, tortang talong, sinampalukang manok, inihaw na baboy, salsawang sukang may sili at bawang, pritong galunggong at pinakbet. Pangalawa, ayusin ang hapag. Ilatag ang dahon, ilagay ang tumpok ng kanin sa gitna at ipaibabaw ang mga ulam. Pangatlo, tawagin na ang tropa! Boodle fight na!
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing, Terry and Evangeline. Yeah, so again, like there is no right or wrong answer to like interpret the the prompts. It's like whatever direction you want to take it to. So yeah, like so first is like yung sa ideas of connection. I think it's like something that we're all craving for, and it's interesting. I find, Terry, that like you also, there's kind of this like still digital aspect of like connections, even though when we talk about the things that we're missing. So I find that really interesting. And then yung kay Evangeline, like the concept like of idea that yung sa parang sa boodle fight, and I think it's just like with the listing of the food, like it just really almost like brings a sense of like community. And I find it interesting in both of your interpretations of the prompt, like you really focused on like these ideas of like connections with with other people. So I think which is really underneath what we've all been missing. It's just like this idea of like connections. So wow, we have like some audience feedback, which is all very, very positive. So sabi ni Marian, ang galing, I'm smiling right now. Sabi ni Dada, ang galing, with smiley face. Si Gerald ay napa-wow. Si Jan ay grabe naman, ang gagaling ninyo. Nikki said, I was traveling so badly. It reminded me of so many things of great value. Yeah, so yeah, I'm sure like I haven't traveled since last year. I'm sure it's like a very like weird experience for so many people right now. I don't even know what it's like. So I'm with you there. So with that, we are gonna move on to the last prompt for this evening. So I think most of us are familiar with the idea of the bugtong, but in case anybody needs a refresher, a bugtong is a riddle like that's usually recited in 2 lines, and it's rhyming, very rhythmic, and very, very poetic in its use of metaphors to describe the object that's being guessed. So, for example, dalawang batong itim, malayo ang nararating. And anybody guess sa chat? Anong sagot dyan?
Mata po.
Mata, yes. And then second one is lumuluha, walang mata, lumalakad, walang paa. And that is?
Pen.
Yes.
Ball pen.
Correct. So before we get into our next prompt, gusto ko, I thought I would like to share like some of the poems that I've written in relation to bugtong. So the first one is called, sorry, I'm just trying to look for it. So the first one is called The Variations on the Kite Riddle. Sorry, I'm just like trying to look for it. Okay, so yung as I think as some of us may know na yung ang bugtong para sa saranggola ay yung butot balat lumilipad. So I thought I would just like make some variances in it in like 2 lines each. So ito siya. Actually, hindi ko siya masyadong gusto, but anyway, I thought I will share it with you anyway because this is part of the process. Like no writing is perfect, and kind of sometimes reading it kind of helps us improve too in later aspects. So variations on the kite riddle. So butot balat lumilipad. Number 1, a poor diwata's diamond tiara. Number 2, feed the clouds unfried fatback. Number 3, princessa is in her bed, floating in a siesta towards the sun. Number 4, a forlorn manananggal wing flies to find a woman with child. Number 5, Manang's sarong tries to emancipate itself but is captured by clothespins. Number 6, bibingka outstretched, sailing in the wind. Number 7, Batala's torso is skinned, crucified. So that's the first poem that I wanted to share from my own work. And the second one, just give me a sec. The second one is called Bruja, and it comes from a Chavacano book that that has like some riddles in it. So I thought I would take some inspiration from it and kind of derive a poem about my own personal experiences. My dad is Chavacano, so I thought like, it's also kind of a little bit of a tribute to him. So ang title ng poem ay Bruja. And there's an epigraph in the beginning which says, Si grita dao lejos ese cerca, si grita dao sueña ese lejos. So in English, It means when the cry seems to be far, it means that it is near. And when the cry seems to be loud, it means that it is far. If you're wondering what this means in English, don't ask me, as I will forget. Maybe by choice. Would it help you remember this riddle and its answer if I imprint images and not semantics? Mamang hated Nanay, believed she hexed Tatay. Mamang hated us too. I wonder if I looked more suspicious than my younger sisters. My hair broke all brushes and combs. I attacked the apartment's walls with Crayola, destroyed dolls with costume changes. Don't ask me to speak in Chavacano. I can't. I never believe textbooks when they say, bien fácil lang gayo. So with that, I'd like to move to the next slide. So I would, so for just take 4 minutes to recall, to list like some bugtong that you enjoy or that have made an impression on you. You like yung mga napakasimple, like heto na si kakabu buka ka. If you can't remember anything, use a couple websites. You can Google, but I'll also provide some in the chat as a reference and just like mark them, copy paste them somewhere, and take note of how the answers to the bugtong are being characterized in the actual riddle. So just give me 1 second. And then so I'm sure may baka may mga naaalala kayo, but just in case you need a refresher. So yes, so take 4 minutes, and your 4 minutes starts right now. So 1 minute left. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, time's up. So again, like just take 20 seconds to choose bugtong. Again, like it could be like your favorite one or one that really stands out to you, or maybe you like the sounds, or maybe again it just jumps out on the page for you. Walang tama o maling dahilan. So just take 20 seconds again. And pick bugtong. Okay, so time is up. So next slide, please. So ito na. So in 10 lines of poetry, use the riddle of your choosing as the basis for your next poem. And you can use the riddle of your choosing as an epigraph. So meaning like after the title, like it usually epigraph is like yung kanina na ginawa ko, where it's like the title and then like kind of the first thing you see, like right in the middle of the page, there's the bugtong. So you can expand on it. You can create variations of the bugtong, like I did on the yung sa riddle about sa saranggola, or expand on the bugtong by thinking about a scene in your life that corresponds to the scenario in the riddle. Again, remember to use your senses and bring it back to your body. So 10 lines, 10 minutes. Let's go. So 5 minutes left. Okay, 1 minute left. can you just wrap up whatever you're writing because time's up. Okay. Next slide ulit, please. Okay, so last check-in and sharing natin. So again, what's the experience of responding to this prompt is like, what was the experience of responding to this prompt like? What has this unearthed for you? So at saka kung may gusto mag-share kung anong sinulat nila, please feel free to do so. Either in the chat, share insights by chat, or whatever you wrote by chat, or like you can raise your hand or whatever and speak it to the microphone. Like may mga ungkat ba kayo mga memories from like recalling certain bugtong or just even the practice of reciting it? Yeah, I'm really curious. Oh, okay, so Terry shared something in the chat. So I am the one you see each day. You depend on me, yet you don't acknowledge me. You pour out your secrets to me and I'm sworn to secrecy. You show me parts of you you dare not reveal to others so easily. We have good times and the bad. Even your friends do this to me. It sucks being me. Ooh, ano kaya to? So it seems like Terry has created a riddle for us to solve. So anong object kaya ito? Any guesses? Talking to yourself. Sabi ni Terry, hindi daw. Okay, we have like 2 guesses left. Anybody want to take a guess? Okay, maybe I'll bite. How about a diary? A mirror. Mirror daw sabi ni Janet. That's a good guess though. But she says no. Anybody want to take one more guess? Ano kaya ito? Shadow. Sabi ni Effie, shadow. Okay, so we've used up all our guesses. Ano, what is this, Terry? Anong ano to?
The toilet.
Amazing. You would never know. I mean, you could just...
It sucks to be used as a toilet, right?
Yeah,
Nobody
totally.
cares. Do you talk to your toilet? Nobody talks to their toilet. Hey, how you doing? Hey, look at me. Ooh, here's a part of me nobody else will see.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's so brilliant. I mean, you can never tell it's a toilet. I mean, like, you know, when you think of a toilet, it's like so, I don't know, it's like so crass and like, I don't know if, you know, so crappy. But, you know, with the way you've written it, you could never tell it's a toilet. So.
Was that correct though? Was that right? Okay.
Oh yeah. Like totally. If you know, I think that's like part of the exercise too. If you can make up your own riddle, it's like why not? It's great. I love it. Anybody else want to share the poems that I've written, or like if you wrote a riddle yourself? Like I'm curious to hear, what did you write a riddle about? Anybody?
Ma'am, can I share?
Sige po.
Tagalog.
Sige.
Ito'y hindi napipigilan, hindi pwedeng ipagpaliban. Walang pinipiling oras kahit saan ka man, mapa-office or higaan. Kung ito'y gustong lumabas, huwag mo nang pigilan pa. Sabi nila, italikod mo na lang. Sabi ko naman, huwag mong susundin. Lalo ka lang hahampasin, mga kaibigan mong nakapansin.
So sabi ni Marian, wow, it's like toilet humor. Amazing. It's sabi ni Marian, ay utot daw. Is this correct?
Yes po.
Amazing. That's so funny. And diba na parang napakaseryoso ng kasi parang walang pinipigilan. Yung parang napaka-direct at napaka-forward ng language. So that's hilarious. I love it. I love it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mag-share po ako.
Sige po. Sige.
Okay. Yun lang, mayroon akong isang Tagalog word na dito na hindi ko alam kung tama. So, eto na. Heto na, pero wala pa. Ramdam mo na, pero dampi lang pala. Malakas ang dating, nakakakaba. Malumanay ang daloy, samyo sa pisngi. Nakakaginhawa sa pandama, damhin ang simoy niya.
Hangin?
Yes po.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. And I think yung sa, and I think it's interesting too kasi yung, when you think of the word hangin, yung parang yung simoy ng hangin, yung haplos ng hangin, yung parang parang napakamalumanay ng imagery at saka ng parang ungentle. So I think it's interesting to like the kind of the voice that we take on when we write about certain things. So thank you for sharing, Janet and Lunisa. And I think so next slide, please. So Terry said, Janet, write it here, please. So if you would like to share it via the chat so like everybody can see the text, it's totally up to you. So next slide is, so I think that ends the workshop part of my workshop. But if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat box or again, like speak into the microphone. Anything and everything.
I'm interested with the what's that borderless queen ba yun?
So I actually so sorry, could you repeat the question again?
I don't really know what is a borderless queen. What does it imply? What do people do when they are considered borderless queen? Something like that.
Yeah,
so give us a little bit of a background.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Sure. So burlesque, it's basically like the art of stripping. I think I want to acknowledge then na para ang roots nito ay I mean, I'm not very well versed in the history, but like I kind of also want to acknowledge yung parang ties nito with like sex work and like how like strippers kind of gave way for burlesque dancers like to be on the stage. Like, so what I do is like I use my body to like to perform and to use the art of stripping to like say something or to comment on something. So parang ganon. So for instance, like I parang yung debut number ko is about like commentary on beauty queens, tapos ang ginamit kong kanta ay Air Supply. So pero parang it's kind of a parody of like Miss Universe yung so parang ganon, but it doesn't have to be like such a political commentary, but also I think like burlesque is a political it's a very political art because parang the way that women's bodies in particular have been like policed and politicized, so parang it's kind of a way to like take agency with our bodies, using the art of striptease, basically. So sabi ni Evangeline, burlesque queen reminded me of the Vilma Santos movie, the same title. Yes! So definitely Vilma Santos. I actually haven't been able to find a good copy of the movie on YouTube or wherever on the internet, sadly. So hindi ko pa siya napapanood, but it's like on my like top list of things to watch. So sabi ni Marian, I want to be a burlesque queen din ata, but I guess I need to lose weight muna. So the good thing about burlesque is that it's like it's very like body positive. Like it's not just I think isa sa mga pinakamalaking lesson na natutunan ko. It's like it's not just about like one size. Like I know that like my size is kind of unaccepted, kind of within the realm of like what an accepted body looks like. But like I've seen so many people like from different sizes and like different shapes, different ethnicities, like different lahat. So there is like a really big push to like for performers of different sizes to like take agency and like really own it on stage. So yeah, anybody can do it. Trust me. Ako hindi rin ako marunong sumayaw actually, but like I just did it anyway. So yeah, anybody can do it. Thank you so much, Karla. That's very enlightening. I had limited knowledge about it and mainly just stripping. Yeah, and I think like parang may I hope I'm not mistaken, but again, like there's this like ties to like to strippers and stuff like that. So definitely there's like borrowing of some we borrow sometimes from that, but of course, like there's like also conversations in burlesque culture about like what does it mean to borrow from like strippers when you're not a stripper yourself, and like strippers like livelihoods are at risk, and especially like for example like in Instagram, like they've like tightened their like guidelines and stuff like that, which makes it difficult for strippers to like make a livelihood on Instagram, for instance. Whereas for some so stuff like that. So so Marian said, when you write, do you do prompts then, or do you draw your inspiration to write? Sometimes I do prompts, like I draw inspiration to write from my I guess from my life and like the stuff that I see and the stuff that I read. And so do I do prompts? Occasionally, pag tinamaan ng gusto, I also use prompts. Like if I feel like I'm stuck, then I kind of use prompts as a way to like get back into it, as a way to like guide my writing. But again, like I want to emphasize that like you don't have to strictly follow prompts. Like whatever direction you feel pulled into is that's totally up to you, and that's okay. So yeah, I guess again, inspiration in writing. I guess just like ako yung type na medyo usisera. At saka yung I like to eavesdrop. I like to like listen in on people and just like observe people. So I kind of draw some poetry from there, from just like things that I observe every day, just like really mundane. And also like a history. I also draw inspiration from history. Kasi I feel like yung mga nakatatanda sa atin, they're like some great storytellers, and I feel like I've taken for granted how much their stories are lost. So I kind of try to write them down and like ask for relatives for stories if I can. And again, just like my life and my personal journey, like I try to like draw inspiration from that, from just like stuff that's happened to me. So you can the thing about poetry is like you can make it into whatever you want. So like you can make the mundane into something like magnificent, or vice versa. So Evangeline said burlesque is body poetry. Yes, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, so thank you. Janet said, do you have a book or a collection of your poems? I actually haven't. A good question. So the short answer ay hindi, kasi hindi ko pa siya tinatrabaho. Pero hopefully, dahil January pa at New Year's resolution, this is the month of like New Year's resolutions or whatever. So sana I can find time to work on it and have a book out maybe in the next 2 years, maybe. I don't want to like parang mag-commit to anything, but definitely that's kind of slowly but surely siguro. So sabi ni Gerald, oftentimes, what is the best time you feel like you're productive writing poetry? I feel like productive ako about writing poetry if I'm with other people, actually. Pag may mga kasama magsulat, like si Dada, kasama ko magsulat dati yan ng umaga. And yeah, I think like morning for me is like a really productive time kasi parang fresh pa yung isipan mo. At saka, we also kind of one technique that I learned from, writing with Dada and Tai, our other friend, is like using the Pomodoro method, which is like a 25-minute timer to write and then taking a 5-minute break and then going for 25 minutes. I found that that's really worked for me in the past. So, yun. Definitely umaga, but like the practice of using Pomodoro and writing with other people really add on to it.
Yeah, and also siguro yung sa mga umattend ng workshop na ito, you can also maybe organize among yourselves like a writing group and try to apply Pomodoro style siguro once a week, right? Kahit na once a week lang, try to write something for 25 minutes, 2 sessions. So
yeah, 50 minutes of writing poetry or essays, journal, diary, anything. Diba? Para lang merong aliw. Tapos, ano rin, meet new friends. Gather same minds. Right?
Oo nga. Tama. Yes. Ano kayo? Build kayo ng writing group. So there's a couple more comments in the chat. So sabi that poems can put feelings in creative form. Yes. And again, I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier about intention. Like you can really like, and I think all of you have like shown that at the workshop tonight, by the way you choose your words and you choose how you manipulate your language to convey so you can convey the message that you want to convey in the tone that you want it to be conveyed in. So yes, definitely. So Terry
And
said,
also, kung merong interesado na mag-share ng poems nila in written form, hindi ngayon na video recorded, later on siguro with each other, maybe we can share our email addresses and then I can just circulate an email to all and then we can just post our poems, share with each other. Ako rin meron kaya nahihiya akong mag-share kasi medyo personal tungkol sa, you know, madrama, personal feelings. Pero, yeah, I'd love to share. Andito pa naman si Manay Marian. Yeah, so please write your email if you would like to connect and share your work with each other's post-workshop. And we can also comment on each other's works then.
Yeah, so address ko lang yung isa pang comment from Terry. So any other tips you'd like to share? I think like maybe one thing that you could use moving forward is to read your poems out loud and see how they read, because like reading poems and hearing poems are like two different experiences. And again, walang tama o mali. It's like totally up to you. But I think like, reading it can give you like another way of like looking at the poem. Perhaps kung mayroong rhythm na hindi nagwo-work, or like maybe there was like a word choice na hindi masyadong like tingin mo hindi siya nag-fit sa so what you're trying to convey. Any other tip? I guess any other tip is like I would say like read other poets, but I'm also a hypocrite. I don't read a lot of other poets, but I mean I read other poets' work, but like not super diligently. I like to read other things just to like again as another source of inspiration and like as another way of like to think about how to say things in another way. So like go to like essays and like novels and I don't know, newspaper articles or whatever. But I guess yeah, read other poets and also other things. So yeah, I think that's all the questions that they have.
Carla, one last question from me. I'm very interested kasi you've been living in Canada for years na din, di ba? So how do you integrate yung writing, yung Filipino culture into your writing when you have not been living here in the Philippines? Of course, you grew up here, di ba? Pero yung current work mo or if it's all about or paano mo siya na-integrate yung Philippine culture?
That's a good question. I think yung sabi nung isang prof ko sa when I was doing my master's, so parang sabi niya, when he was reading my writings, it feels like I have like one foot in Canada and one foot in the Philippines, and I feel like parang so parang there's like a either or, parang just like stuck between two places, and I think that like I would say that's like an accurate assessment of like the work that I'm doing. I don't think I can ever divorce myself from writing about Filipino culture, even implicitly, kasi I am a Filipino at the end of the day, and like kasi parang ano din I guess if you look at it on a broader scale, yung parang yung tinatawag nilang Canadian literature, Canlit, Canadian poetry, I feel like it has like a certain aesthetic that na even though especially earlier on, like I would try to like emulate that style, I feel like lumalabas pa din yung pagka Filipino ko, and like it's just something that doesn't feel right to me. Like to me, like what I always end up writing about is like, is about the Philippines, and like, yung mga bagong experiences sa tuwing like dumadalaw ako, or like news that I read about current events and stuff like that. So yeah, so I guess to answer your question, hindi ko siya maihiwalay, and I don't know if I can ever lose that point of view saan man ako magpunta. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you so much. It's been really very productive and very enlightening.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Hindi ko maano yung screen. Paano ba ito mapalaki?
Miss Karla, I have one more thing to ask. Sorry.
Sige, go lang.
Sorry. It was mentioned earlier that you published some sort of something. I forgot if it was something for theater or what was that? Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I had so I have published poetry. So actually, later on, what you can do as well is like submit to like literary journals. I have to think of a way. Kasi like submitting to literary journals is kind of another beast on its own. So parang maybe I'll think about it and like maybe put something together that I could send to Dada, which can then be shared to people. Kasi again, that's like another beast, and just so everybody is aware, like you are gonna get a lot of rejections when you submit to literary magazines. Like if you see like my list, it's like, I don't know, like 95 rejections. Well, 95 is an exaggeration, pero super madami compared to like what's been accepted. So that's like another way to kind of as a next step. And I guess like another thing that I did, I had a short play, like a 10-minute play that was showcased like a few years ago, which again, I guess like talking again, like going back to Marian's question from earlier, is like yung hindi ko ma-divorce yung sarili ko from the Philippines, where I wrote about like yung the experience of the play was called The Medium, and it was basically about like a medium, so parang espiritista, which is based on my sister's experience of like contacting an espiritista, and and then our dad apparently like came through the espiritista, so it's just like loosely based on that. So yeah, so if you look at yourself and look at the people around you, there's definitely lots of inspiration.
Okay, all right.
So yay.
Thanks.
Yeah, there. So I think we will conclude. Thank you very much, Karla. And thanks to everyone for coming. And I'll post more information on the final talk with Rafi Lerma. Please watch out for it. And actually, another professor told me that he'd be happy to give a workshop on theater. So I'm not yet sure, but maybe if there's interest, then we could also organize that. Salamat. Palakpakan natin si Karla.
Thank you, Karla. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you everybody. Thank you everybody. Ang galing ninyo.
Thank you. Galing.
Mag-take po ba tayo ng picture?
Oh, yun nga pala, picture. Mag-picture pala tayo. Thanks, Jehu.
Maglulugay lang ako.
Maglulugay. Sige. Ikaw mag-picture, Jehu? Okay.
Ako na po, wait lang.
Ate Lisa, hindi ka namin makita.
Okay. 1, 2.
Ano po?
Ate Lisa, lang nakakita namin.
Si Nikki din. Si Jess, tsaka si Nikki. We can see you.
Nikki. If you would like to show yourself. If not, it's okay.
Marian, I look like a mess. You know why? My situation.
Oh, I understand.
So no photos
You're
for me
still
for
beautiful, I'm
now.
sure.
Yeah.
Yun, si Ate Lisa.
Hi.
Long time no see. Sige.
Yes po.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Salamat.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you po.
Karla.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. See you sa next workshop.
Thank you so much. Thank
Lovely to
you.
see you again.
Nice to see you po. Thank you so
Bye.
much.